So my name is Brahmachari Hari Chaitanya. The first part of my name, Brahmachari, that signifies that I am a monk in training. Now, in our lineage, we have two designations for monks. The ones that wear yellow are the ones that are in training. After studying at Sandipani Sadhanalaya, a seminary of sorts, then working in the field for a probationary period before we're blessed with what we call sannyasa diksha, where we become full-fledged monks. So I'm sure you've heard one title that's used, Swami, and then the name that's given. That Swami signifies that they are monks. A Brahmachari is a monk in training. So I'm one of two monks in training here at Chinmaya Mission Dallas, Fort Worth. The other is Brahmacharini Sanjana Chaitanya. Couldn't be with us today, but we both serve in the greater Dallas area at our three centers, Chinmaya Saaket here in North Plano, Chinmaya Chitrakoot in Irving, and Chinmaya Panchavati in the Frisco area. So there's an often guided debate that comes up about Hinduism and sometimes even within Hindus. Is Hinduism a religion or is it a way of life? That's a common question. Now the reason why that question arises is, in academic circles, when you want to designate what a religion is, there's usually 5 questions that are asked. What is your text? Your book? Who is your prophet? What is your concept of God? What are your do's and don'ts? What is your idea of bondage and liberation? Now, for our friends from the Abrahamic faith, these questions are fairly cut and dry, very simple to answer. In Hinduism, however, every single one of these answers comes with a but or depends, or there's a lot of other different nuances there. I want to dive into that a little bit today. So when it comes to what is your book, if you were to visit our library downstairs that you'll see during our tour, you'll find we have a plethora of various texts. If you're to point to one and say, this is our main book, is very difficult to do. But if we look at it, the main text that we have as Hindus is called the Veda. Now, the Veda comes in 4 different parts. There's the Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharvana Veda. Now, any other text we have in our pantheon of Hindu literature is derived mainly from these 4 texts. Now, what do they contain? Each of the Vedas can be bifurcated into 2 different sections. The first section goes into the ritualistic aspect, which you'll see in our temple area today, where what are the practices that we do? From very simple practices of lighting a lamp at an auspicious occasion, all the way to what is the intricacy of a wedding ceremony. What goes into the last rites done for someone after they've passed. These are all milestones that we observe, and this portion of the Veda goes into this in depth. The latter part of every Veda is called the Upanishads. Upanishads contain that deepest truth of what Sriji had mentioned, that one consciousness is what pervades in and through everything. So the Veda is split into 2 sections. Now you may ask, if the ultimate truth is given in the Veda, what's the use of all these rituals and other practices? To understand that deepest philosophy, the mind must be what we call sukshma, meaning subtle. It has to operate at a very high level. These rites and rituals, diligently done with great deliberation, they purify this inner instrument so that it's ready for the knowledge of the Upanishads. That's the purpose that it serves. So our book is the Veda. Question number 2 was, I also asked those questions. Question number 2 was, who is your prophet, was a question that we had. Now, by definition, a prophet is an individual with exclusive access to the Word of God that is then passed down to the followers and the people. Now, in Sanatana Dharma, we have no such concept of one particular prophet. We can say what we have is the Guru, Shishya, Parampara. Guru meaning teacher, Shishya meaning student, Parampara meaning tradition or lineage. This lineage, through an oral tradition, carries this knowledge down. And if you look in this photo right here, at the very top right there we have Bhagavan Sri Veda Vyasa. Now, what was his contribution to Hinduism? Until his time, believe it or not, the entire Vedic compendium of knowledge was memorized and then passed down through an oral tradition. There were no books, and the mental capacity of the people of that age was at a different level. Now, ladies here, when you send your husband to get the grocery list, I mean, first few years of marriage, they call back and ask what to get. After that, they just pick something, right? Memory capacity was falling even in that time. Recognizing this, alarmed at what was happening, Veda Vyasji codified the Veda into those 4 distinct sections and trusted one disciple of his 4 major disciples with each Veda so that it could be passed down. Without Bhagavan Shri Veda Vyasji, there would be no Hinduism today. You go further down, the teacher wearing the red covering on his head. That is Bhagavan Shri Adi Shankaracharya Ji. Our specific sect of Hinduism that we observe here at Chinmaya Mission is called Advaita Vedanta, loosely translated in English as qualified non-duality. The greatest exponent of this philosophy was Bhagavan Shri Adi Shankaracharya Ji. Now, a little note, since Sacred Spaces is all about discussion, one note about what his process was. In those days, whenever there were these debates going on between competing schools of thought within Hinduism, it's not like a TV debate today where 2 talking heads get on there, say what they want to say, and they go their separate ways. The stipulation was, if your logic is refuted by your opponent, you abandon your philosophy, you take your opponent as your teacher, and you follow that philosophy. Meaning, how entrenched, how convinced do you have to be in your own philosophy if you're willing to debate someone else? And what humility do you have to abandon your own tradition following someone else's if their logic wins out? Meaning, Sanatana Dharma, or Hinduism's quest, is a quest for that truth. Not to show supremacy in any way, that we are all after that one truth. If that means abandoning notions that I hold in the quest of that truth, so be it. So that covers who is your prophet. Third question was, what is your concept of God? What is your concept of God in the religion? Now, that's why we have these 5 different manifestations here I'd like to show you. In Sanatana Dharma, the idea is there is that one consciousness pervading in and through all. Now, anyone seen Forrest Gump? In the end credits of Forrest Gump, what does it say? Tom Hanks in and as Forrest Gump, where he's in the film titled Forrest Gump as the role of Forrest Gump. Now you're thinking, why is he saying this? There's a connection, I promise. I'll think of a connection, there is one right here. In Sanatana Dharma, the definition given for that divine is abhinna, nimitta, upadana, karana. This one I'm not going to quiz you on, okay? These are the 3 monikers that are given. What do they mean? Karana means cause, okay? All of these words relate to the word cause. Abhinna means unbroken. Unbroken in the sense that there was no time where this Bhagavan, or God, did not exist, exists in the present, and there is no time where this entity will not exist. Meaning, it's not that creation was there and then God came from that creation. Creation and what we see as the cosmos is a product of that divine, abhinna. The next 2 words are a bit more tricky here. Nimitta karana, upadana karana. Nimitta karana means that intelligent cause. The example that's often given is, imagine clay, and there's a pot maker who makes ladles out of that clay. He makes different pots, vessels, utensils, bowls, all different things out of that one clay. He is the nimitta karana of that, the intelligent cause giving something to that shape. Bhagavan is that. Our divine is also the upadana karana, the material cause, in this case clay. If only God exists, what material does he use to make the entire world? That material comes from him as well. Which is why, just as Tom Hanks in and as Forrest Gump, it is this divine in this creation as this very creation as the matter as well. Now the logical question that comes up is, if that's the idea, why so many forms for the Hindus? Each form of the divine that we have is for its own purpose. They have special domain, if you will, and that's why they're worshipped. So we said we'd have 5 of our murtis, or manifestations, here to be explained. The first here, with an elephant head, is known as Bhagavan Ganesha. And he's first in our lineup here because whenever we embark on something new in life, we first pray to Bhagavan Ganesha because he's known as Vigneshvara, the one who removes obstacles from our life. That's the point. Second, we have Lakshmi Devi, the feminine divine Lakshmi Devi, known in vernacular as the goddess of wealth. Not just material wealth, but patience is a virtue that is wealth. Good habits are a great wealth. Open-mindedness is great wealth. That's what we pray to Lakshmi Devi for. Then here we have the tandem of Bhagavan Shiva and his consort Parvati Devi. Bhagavan Shiva is known as the sustainer of the equilibrium. Anything that is created must also come to an end at one point. Bhagavan Shiva maintains this equilibrium of the entire cosmos. The 2 that we have remaining, Bhagavan Mahavishnu. He is the protector of all that is created. And so in times of need, when people are praying for various things to keep them protected, there are special prayers dedicated to Bhagavan Vishnu. The final one is Bhagavan Hanumanji. And you can find his picture in the back there as well, where Bhagavan Hanumanji assumes the form of what he's called as a Vanara. There was a special race at that time that consisted of having monkey-like traits and human-like traits. He's worshipped for his prowess of devotion. The ultimate devotee is Hanumanji, and I'll explain more about that once I get to the end of my talk. So where are we so far? We're not lost yet, right? We got what is our book? Who is your prophet? We answered that. What is your concept of God? We went through that thoroughly. 2 more were left. What were they? What is your idea of bondage and liberation? Now, in the slide deck, if we go there, you'll find a pyramid that we had made. There's something called the Purusharthas. Purushartha means goals of life. Now, bondage that we find ourselves in, according to the Hindu line of thought, is I have my likes and dislikes. Based on those likes and dislikes, I make a decision to do something or to acquire something. Now, that decision is either in line with dharma or not dharma. Dharma is a very simple word to define in Sanskritam. There are only 27 definitions of the word. Okay? For our purpose here, dharma means righteous action, where artha means wealth. Is it wrong to have wealth? Hinduism says no. Is it wrong to be obsessed with wealth? It has an opinion on that there. So wealth is needed just as a commodity to transact and to live. The religion recognizes that. So artha is wealth. Kama is personal desire. Artha, wealth. Kama, personal desire. It's also recognized in the religion that we all have our own personal desires. But what's the catch right here? Whether it's artha, wealth, or kama desire, they should function within that umbrella of dharma. No matter what I want to do, what is right to do, dharma supersedes that. Now, before I get to moksha, I'll explain the last limb of our analysis here. What are your do's and don'ts? Now, in Sanatana Dharma, there's no short list of commandments per se that tell us very clearly what are do's and don'ts. Dharma, righteous action, is quite subjective for each person, for the station of life that they're in and what they do. Let me ask you a question. I'm going to say an object, and you quickly, as fast as you can, you tell me if it's a good object or a bad object. Ready? A knife. What is this hesitation? Such an easy word that we all know. A knife is? Depends on whose hands it's in. If it is in the hands of a criminal, it's bad. If it's in the hands of a skilled surgeon to save my life, it's a good thing. If it's in the hands of my mother making food, it's a great thing. If it's in the hands of one of the high school kids trying to cook me something, you never know where I'm going to end up. An object does not inherently have good or bad in it. It's depending on who's using it. Similarly, for the do's and don'ts that are prescribed within Sanatana Dharma, based on someone's vocation, station in life, personality, configuration. All of this goes into what should be done, what should not be done. For someone who kills someone on the street, we put him in jail. A soldier does the same thing on the battle lines, we put a medal on him. It's all so nuanced in that way. Dharma is all-encompassing in that way. Now back to the chart, you saw one final tip of the very pyramid. That is moksha, that is liberation. What is liberation defined as in Sanatana Dharma? Liberation is the end of transmigration when no new birth is taken. We as Hindus believe, owing to the law of karma, that we take multiple births. As long as our desires persist, we keep taking births. The end of desire comes when that knowledge of what my true identity is understood, that comes through following dharma in pursuit of kama, which is personal desire, and artha, which is wealth, all in that quest of that final goal of life, moksha. So we went through our 5 right here, painlessly. No one got hurt in the whole process. So now we go even further. Now imagine this. Imagine if in the United States, from state to state, everyone spoke a different language, had an entirely different cuisine, celebrated their festivals in completely different ways. Imagine how that would be. Language, for instance. I was at New York airport once. I saw the funniest conversation. A man from Alabama is at the front desk talking to the New Yorker, and he says, "I need a pin." So she's confused, but he says, "I need a pin right now." She pulls out a safety pin. I don't know from where she got that, but she hands it to him. He looks confused. He said, "I need a pin to write with. I need a pin." And then she's like, "Oh, you meant pen." Now, I'm not just talking about a dialect here. I'm saying, what if people in Texas spoke a different language from people in Oklahoma? What if people in Oregon had a different cuisine from those in California? What if those in North Dakota celebrated festivals completely differently from their neighbors in South Dakota? That is India in a nutshell. The origin of the Hindu religion, India, also known as Bharata, has that much diversity in it. Where because of all of that diversity, you better believe the way the religion is practiced is also varying and different from location to location. Now, that would make us think, okay, with all this kind of diversity and differences, that would owe to some kind of division and lack of unity. But if you look at it, all of these differences is what makes the country more unified. The fact that that common thread going in and through all of these different states is the Hindu religion binds it together under that umbrella of righteous action according to what dharma is. Now I see a beautiful parallel from that to what we're doing here at Sacred Spaces. We all come from various backgrounds, various experiences, but that one common thread running in and through all of us is a genuine curiosity into what is the faith of the person next to me, and more importantly, what can we find in common so that we grow together as one loving community together. Now, more about this sacred space that we're in now. You've heard the name Swami Chinmayananda, who is here on my left. Swami Chinmayananda was born in Kerala, India, as Balakrishnan Menon. And he was the son of a lawyer and a judge, and he lived a very privileged upbringing. He enjoyed his life thoroughly. He was a graduate in both law and English literature, graduated with a master's degree in both, and devoted his life in the 1930s to the Indian freedom movement. As they were fighting to gain their independence from the British, he fought thoroughly for that, for which he was imprisoned by the British for that practice. So much so that he was tortured, left to die on the side of the road. Now, quite thankfully, a lady came and saved his life, nursed him back to health, and he said, "I'm going to dedicate my life to being a journalist now." With his law degree and his literature degree, he said, "This is my calling." Now, what he was focused on was the plight of the common man. Those who are trampled by the powers that be, those people who have no voice, let me lend them a voice. And what did he see as the biggest enemy of the common man in India? Religion. He said all these monks in the mountains in the Himalayas are sitting there as leeches in society, not providing anything to it, yet peddling what he said they're drug peddlers, and religion is the opium that they feed to the people. That was his view. So on assignment, he went to the Himalayas and said, I am going to interview these sadhus, or saints, so-called saints in his opinion, see how they live, and expose them for the frauds that they are. So putting that picture back up of our Guru Parampara, he finds Pujya Swami Shivanandaji first in Rishikesh. That's a city in northern Bharat. And Pujya Swami Shivanandaji is, I'll point it out right clearly, the Swami right here. So there he finds that not only does this Swami teach classes and run an ashram, he's a former doctor who also runs a medical dispensary there. So already his conviction in the terrible nature of these people is shaken already, and he thinks to himself, man, there must be something deeper here. Long story short, after spending several months there learning and studying, not only does he drop his journalistic project of exposing these frauds, he says, I want to become a renunciate monk like them. And so he has bestowed the name Swami Chinmayananda, which is a combination of chit, meaning consciousness, maya, mass of consciousness, that consciousness pervading all. And then Swami Shivanandaji tells him, if you want to learn this knowledge further, go to my friend who is higher in the Himalayas, Swami Tapovanji Maharaj, who is pictured in the garment in the purple on my right over here, his teacher. So he trekked for 3 weeks in terrible terrain from Swami Shivanandaji's ashram to Tapovanji Maharaj's ashram. Approaches him with all humility, says, I'd like to learn this knowledge from you. Tapovanji says, where's the letter? Excuse me? There's got to be some reference letter from the previous Swami that says who you are. You could be anybody. Where's the letter? He says, he never gave me any letter. Okay, he says, go get it then. Now, you and I would have quit on the spot. Let's be honest. We like knowledge, but not, that much. Swami Chinmayanandaji went back down to Rishikesh, got the letter saying, I am sending him to you, presents it to Swami Tapovanji Maharaj, who, without even opening it, sets it aside and says, let's start learning. That was a test. Now, he was tested even further. Swami Tapovanji's rules of his ashram were, if I teach you something and the next day I ask you to recite it and you can't, pack your bags, be on your way. Hari Om. Hari Om is also a good goodbye as well, not just a greeting. He also said, if you ask me the same question twice, clearly your head's not in the game, pack your bags, be on your way, Hari Om. So many students would come and go like this. Swami Chinmayanandaji thrived under this discipline. His thirst for knowledge was unquenchable. In a mere 2.5 years, he gained what this knowledge was. Then an idea struck him. If I stumbled upon this knowledge here and learned it, my countrymen in this new nascent country of India need to know this knowledge. And his teacher said, why? No one cares about this knowledge. This isn't sacred spaces where everyone comes and enjoys. This knowledge is no one cares about this. Please don't go and teach. Just revel in the knowledge here. He says, no, I have this desire to teach this to the people. He says, okay, go on your way then. Start teaching, but in your first lecture that you give, if there are less than 4 people, then you quit and you come back here. I said, okay, I'll go do it. So in Pune, Maharashtra, near Mumbai, he gave his first lecture in a Ganesh temple. There were 3 people in the audience that were there. The temple, the one who ran the temple, and 2 other people he got a hold of. And he spoke in English on Let Us Be Hindus. Cheerfully wrote a letter back to his teacher saying, there were 4 people present, including the speaker. Because in his mind, even if everyone else falls asleep, the one who is speaking gains the most and knows what was said. Therefore, there were 4 people present, cheerfully went on with his work. And now we find, almost 75 years later, Chinmaya Mission is in 29 countries with over 300 centers that are operating. Now, that was his grand vision. Now, the thing about our sacred spaces in Chinmaya Mission is each one is given a distinct name that has to do with a certain deity or location. So the photo you see here, it's Bhagavan Sri Rama, one of the embodiments of Bhagavan Sri Mahavishnu, a prince who was forced to dwell in the forest for 14 long years and establish dharma, righteousness, by killing many rakshasas, or demonic figures, and working to establish that dharma in all the kingdoms. That was the calling that he had as the manifestation that he took. Now, his abode is what our sacred space is named after, Chinmaya Saaket. Now, if you look at the outside of our Chinmaya Saaket, not like a typical Hindu temple. There is no big flashy figure there. It's not something you can see from far away on the road. It's a very simple box-shaped figure. But as you'll see on the tour that you'll take today, what we've invested in the most in our sacred space is the classrooms that you see on either side, above and below, where this is first and foremost an educational institution. Swami Chinmayananda's view was, especially for those in the Hindu diaspora around the world, unless we teach this next generation the values of what our religion are, the relevance of the religion will die away completely. Which is why I'm so glad that all of you are here in this interfaith setting. Each of us gains something special from these settings. I'll tell you what I've gained from it. I read a book recently during the pandemic. It was called America's Nuns, N-O-N-E-S, meaning what? That every year there's about 7 or 8% more young people that when they have to fill out a survey saying what religion they are, they check the box that says none of the above, unaffiliated. That's a problem across all religions that we're facing. So whenever I meet people of different faiths, I meet rabbis, I meet imams, I meet pastors, one of my first questions to them is, what are you doing to retain your youth? And what tips can you give me in retaining the youth? That's what I've gained from interfaith settings. So like that, whatever our role is, whatever we do, we each have something to gain from the kind of dialogue that we have here. Now, at this institution, it is a value-based education that is grade-specific and appropriate. From kindergarten to about 5th grade, students learn the stories of our Hindu history in the form of various entertaining but deeply profound stories that go through manifestations of the divine, that go through their lila, or what they encountered, goes through all of that. Then in the middle school years, we have specific literature written by Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda that they read. For instance, for our 8th graders, they go through a book called Know What You Have, where they're 13 or 14 years old. What are the chapters titled in that book? Peer pressure, family pressure, academic pressure, dating pressure, career pressure, all of these things. So we try to make that connection to what they're going through in their lives and seeing how does this Hindu value system speak to what they're going through. And as they get to the high school level, in 9th grade, they go through Hindu culture, a textbook of sorts on the basic foundational knowledge of Hinduism and all the topics that arise there, whether it's vegetarianism, whether it's what's called the caste system. All of this is brought into perspective. Once they get to high school, they go through one of the seminal texts that we have, the Bhagavad Gita, plus going through building blocks of Vedanta, kind of what I went through in a nutshell. They expand on that even more. So, truly is a pleasure to be here and speak with you tonight. Where I was joking with the volunteers in the back before I got up here. I said, you know, I have 20 minutes to speak, which feels weird, because 5 minutes, I can sum everything up in 5 minutes really well. In an hour, I can sum it up pretty well too. But 20 minutes is like, it's too big to be an appetizer, too small to be a meal, it seems. Which is why, after I speak, when you have the different stations you're going to, one station will be devoted to Q&A, where you can pick my brain at that time, so please ask anything you'd like then. One thing I'd like to end with now. Swami Chinmayananda once visited a mill in Kerala where he was asked by the boss to speak to the employees there. He got up there, no notes in his hands, nothing prepared, extemporaneously started speaking. His words, dictated the way they were, without any edits, became what we recite as our Chinmaya Mission Pledge. I'm going to go through that with you very slowly and deliberately. See the profound vision that's there. We stand as one family, bound to each other with love and respect. We serve as an army, courageous and disciplined, ever ready to fight against all low tendencies and false values within and without us. We live honestly, the noble life of sacrifice and service, producing more than what we consume, and giving more than what we take. We seek the Lord's grace to keep us on the path of virtue, courage, and wisdom. May thy grace and blessings flow through us to the world around us. We believe in the service of our country is the service of the Lord of Lords. In devotion to the people is the devotion to the Supreme Self. We know our responsibilities. Give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. Om Tat Sat. In the end given there, Om Tat Sat, that is this divine truth, Om, that which is Sat, the truth, may that be followed always. May that be our quest. Thank you so much for being here today. It's my pleasure to interact with all of you. Thank you so much. Hari Om.